Hello and welcome to Switch Scheme. Music plays an important role in gaming. A game's music can evoke immense emotions, from sadness during a heartbreaking moment to invigoration when an intense battle is underway. One of the most powerful things about music isn't always how it makes us feel in the moment, it's how it makes us remember times that have passed. Often we hear a song from a game that we played years ago and we immediately remember sitting in front of the screen, controller in hand, living life in much simpler times. My name is Chris, and today we're going to go over my top 10 songs in gaming. If you enjoyed the content, please drop a like, and consider a sub if you'd like to become part of this awesome community. Please note that I also stream on Twitch, links down below. With all that out of the way, keep in mind that music is going to vary person to person, so let me know your favorite gaming songs in the comments down below. Now, let's groove to some music. I know a lot of people peg Final Fantasy VII as their favorite, and that's pretty fair. When it comes to Final Fantasy games, 7 will always have one of the best stories ever. But for me, who did not own a PlayStation 1, Final Fantasy VII was never even in my mind, until way after its popularity had already surged. For me, my first real experience with Final Fantasy was actually 10. I remember the first time the game loaded up and I saw the graphics of the PS2. I was absolutely amazed. I saw the main character Titus and I thought he had a cool design. I saw the world around the characters and thought, this has promise. I saw the Blitzball arena in the opening and the excitement and thrills that come with it, to the point where I actually spent most of my time playing Blitzball and not as much time in the actual story. But once I first heard the song, To Xanarkand, I was immediately enthralled. It immediately evokes sadness and some sense of wonder. Why is the theme of this game so sad? So soft? Most games have themes that bring to mind adventure, hope, a chance at change. But To Xanarkand is calming, saddening, and pretty much the opposite of what I would have expected. Further understanding of the song's themes of longing for home and wanting to return to eternal peace makes that sadness behind the melody more sensible as you learn of the faith and old Xanarkand and what happened in the past. It truly is a powerful song, and to most who lived through this game's release will hear this song and immediately transform, like Anton Ego once he bites into that ratatouille. I don't know what else there is to say when it comes to Final Fantasy. If you really wanted, sure, this list could be Final Fantasy from beginning to end, but if I had to pick one from the main series, To Xanarkand will always be my favorite. As you will see from this list, a lot of my favorite songs come from the handheld era of Game Boy Color to Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy was one of those consoles for me that basically defined my childhood. More on that later. I remember when the Game Boy Advance first came out, I was so excited. I still had my Game Boy Color at the time, but I vowed to get my hands on a Game Boy Advance one day. Come Christmas time, I got enough money to see it finally happen. My adoptive mom took me to the store and she let me get a Game Boy Advance and one game. I scoured the case at Walmart, my nose pressed firmly to the glass, my breath fogging the glass as I excitedly tried to analyze every box art on display. And that's when I saw Golden Sun. I had no idea what this was. It was a brand new IP, and the art on the front showed 4 characters and awesome combat poses, and I had to take a look. I got the game and raced back home. I remember reading the manual in the car over and over, hyping myself up before I finally walked through the door, ripped apart the GBA box, and popped that game in. The graphics of the Game Boy Advance were something I had never seen on a handheld before, and I was absolutely amazed. I played through a few minutes of the intro, watching as the town in peril attempts to stop a giant boulder from crushing their homes, and then it happened. The first battle. Holy cow, that song gets me so hyped. I was super into the beat and the bass, but when that flute kicked in, I was like Vince McMahon in that meme in real time. I was a bit of a weird kid with music, I admit, but I had played that game from beginning to end and I just loved it. To this day, I beg for a remake of this game and its sequel with modern graphics and modern gameplay updates, and I also want to give out a special honorable mention to another Golden Sun song that holds just as much nostalgia for me, the Elemental Stars. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if you haven't ever heard of this game. But a great channel called SNES Drunk did a review of it 8 years ago, and I want to give him a shout out for bringing that game to light, and I'm going to use his gameplay in the background to kind of go over this song while I talk about it. Now, I had never heard this game when I first saw it at GameStop, and it was in one of those used game cases. This was back when GameStop would pride itself on having rows upon rows of cartridges and cases for you to scan with every visit. Nowadays, it's just junk toys in a pawn shop style poster everywhere you look, begging to lowball you on your belongings. I had a few games to turn in, and I decided to grab Lufia: The Legend Returns for the Game Boy Color. I knew absolutely nothing of what to expect, and I went to my room, I popped it in, and boom, the opening plays. This is one of the best intro songs I have ever heard, and it reeled me in so fast that to this day, I still listen to this song just for fun. The sense of danger and the incoming doom at the start, to the more lighthearted feeling as hope as the higher notes start to kick in. It really sells what this game is about to be, an epic journey to battle the Sinitrals. The game itself isn't the best, and I don't ever find myself replaying it, but this song in particular is on my playlist forever. And I'd also like to give a special shout out to the battle music. My favorite game of all time is Resident Evil 2, and I also include the remake here as well. I bundle them together. The game intrigued 11-year-old me with its scary setting, spooky ambiance, and crazy creatures. I was so bad at the game that I initially hated it. I had never played Resident Evil before. I had an N64, but I was determined to figure this out. I remember the moment you first see the Licker, and having absolutely no idea that the game would throw such an insane monster at you so early, I was terrified. Thankfully though, it prepares you with a shotgun, or a crossbow depending on who you're playing, and the moment moved on. However, there's one moment that I remember the most. One sequence that this game throws at you that if you've played, you will remember. It is the interrogation room. You know it, I know it, everyone who loves Resident Evil 2 knows it. It's one of those underwear changing moments in gaming.
So there's the bishop plug and the rook plug. And what is this used for? Like, I can imagine what that'll be used for then.
After that Licker, I was low on health, staggering in the red, and desperate to find respite. I found my way down the halls, blood streaking the floor as my foot dragged behind me, my adrenaline peaked, my heart racing, and then the song that calmed everything down. The save room music is a simple repeating melody that is short, but the moment you see the door loading animation and you hear that piano begin, your entire body reacts. Your shoulders fall relaxed, your legs and feet stop bouncing, and your breathing becomes no longer labored. It's a simple, subtle track, but any gamer who's played this game knows that it had an impact on them. As we said before, Final Fantasy has virtually no shortage of iconic songs, from the aforementioned To Xanarkand to the prelude that pretty much is in every single game. But one song that truly makes the remember berries of my brain trigger is the simple 10 to 15 second repeating track from Final Fantasy Tactics, the attack team theme when you're setting up your team for battle. The reason this song holds so much to me is because of my grandfather. My grandfather was an Army Ranger in Vietnam, rising to the ranks of Lieutenant Colonel, and he was an absolute badass. And the man was whom I idolized to this day. He gave me many of my moral values and my love for history, and I will always love him for it. But there's one thing that I will always remember from him when I was younger, and that was that he had bagpipes. When I was little, this was an alien instrument to me, but he played them and let me enjoy the music. I recall the first time I played this game years after its release when I finally got it on PSP and I heard this song. It immediately made me think of my grandfather, who at the time was still alive, fine, but years later after he passed away, whenever I hear this song, he is the first thing that I remember. The song itself doesn't really hold any amazement in terms of its specific composition, but the memories always flood my mind from being with my grandfather, fishing, watching Band of Brothers together, hearing his stories in the military, playing horseshoes in his backyard to the smell of his pipe. All of it overwhelms me with emotion, and that's what this song does every single time I play this game. Now this is another nostalgia pick 100%, and like I said at the start of the video, the most powerful ability of music is to trigger memories in our brains and go back in time. And this is a prime example. I was obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid, mostly because of the scenes from Fantasia, The Land Before Time, and numerous books that my mom had bought me to feed that passion. But in 1993, it happened. That's right, Jurassic Park came out and took 6-year-old me into a whole new obsession. I loved the movie so much, and naturally, video games based on it would soon hit Blockbuster the same year. I remember seeing the Super Nintendo box and being overwhelmed with excitement. I rented it many times, but being only 6 years old, who was not very good at video games, I never could beat it. Ever. It also doesn't help that it didn't have a save feature, but that's not the point. The song I specifically remember to this day is one of the overworld themes, Triceratops Trot. This part here, where the flute kicks in, man, that gets me hyped for dinosaur hunting in the jungle every time. The game was full of great songs, although few in number, like Raptor Rap for example, here. This game wasn't very good, and the new port on the Switch thankfully adds the much needed ability to save, but regardless of the game's overall pedigree, this song brings me back to the days of sitting on a shag carpet in the living room with an orange couch in the corner, a giant tube TV in front of me, maybe only 1 foot away, eyes wide with bewilderment as I explored this new world. Out of all the songs on this list, only one can actually make me emotionally react with teary eyes and an internal smile. And that is the theme to Grizzly Hills and World of Warcraft. There isn't a single WoW player who played this game at the peak of Wrath of the Lich King who doesn't hear this song and immediately remember better times. Not of life, but when they played the game. Coming home from school, jumping into the vast world and meeting online friends for the first time, sometimes the last time. Conquering dungeons and raids together with what you hoped would be lifelong companions. The song doesn't just remind us of that, it also reminds us of those who left, who logged out never to log in again. Those who played less and less as adulthood became a reality, as they had kids, families, responsibilities, and soon the world that we had once inhabited began to become more barren. The friendly faces that once gave us respite from our meager circumstances, no longer in our lives. How at the decision of a single logout, it could mean the end of a friendship forever. That is the emotion that the Grizzly Hills music evokes. That is why this will always be World of Warcraft's best song. Not because the zone itself was all that great, I mean it was, but that song, the unique sound of the Nyckelharpa, everyone hearing it for the first time, will always take us back when times were simpler.
I would have my friends come over every single Friday and we would just hang out. Everybody would spend the night over at the house. Everybody would bring over their own computer. And like we still had the old HP computers that we bought from like fucking Sam's Club back in the early 2000s. And we'd just sit there and play on these shitty laggy PCs and play WoW and just hang out, dude.
I was really late to the PC scene. I didn't start playing on PC regularly until maybe 16, 17 years old, and even then, it was mostly at friends' houses and PC bars. But thanks to the port on the N64, I got to experience the magic that was StarCraft. I was so totally confused on how to play this game. It was actually quite funny. I was a young teenager who was used to games like Jet Force Gemini, GoldenEye, not StarCraft. An RTS? What is that? Thankfully, because I was so into gaming, I quickly learned. I had a friend at the time, Garrison, more on him later, who had StarCraft on PC, and he was able to help explain to me what to do, how the mechanics worked, and I was able to go home and start actually playing through the game, mission by mission. Although my friends were all stoked on the Zerg for their animalistic rage and unwielding ferocity, or the Protoss for their highly advanced technologies and stronger units, I, however, have always been a Terran main, 100%. The Marines yelling, "Yes, sir," and "You've got my attention," to the dropship dropping literally one of the best Easter egg lines,
"We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
I just love the Terran, and the musical themes from them are no different. When it comes to a theme, having a job of evoking emotion, the Terran themes does it so perfectly. From the slow buildup of twinkling sounds to remind you that you're in space, to the subtle guitar reminding you that this is kind of a spaghetti western. And then the electric guitar hits with the drums, and it accompanies you into battle and gets your adrenaline rushing as you push towards the enemy base. And then there's this part, which I have always really liked for reasons I can't explain. It just gets your adrenaline pumping. Here we have one of the most recent songs to be added to my favorites list, and if you played Clair Obscur Expedition 33, the soundtrack needs no introduction to its greatness. The music in this game tells as much of the story as the actual visuals and characters, and the issue is it's so hard to pick just one as a favorite. From Alicia, the main thing, to Lumiere, one of the best songs ever put to gaming. But for me, it's a very specific song, not just for the sound, but for the meaning. A mild spoiler alert for Expedition 33, but, and I hope I say this correctly, Un Via Te Me is just a phenomenal song in how it does storytelling along with being an epic boss theme. You're fighting Renoir in his final attempt to stop you from fighting the Paintress at the end of Act 2. You expect good music, of course, because the entire game has had bangers, but then you hear this. Holy cow, how epic is that? And not only is it amazing as a song in terms of its build-up and payoff, but the meaning behind it. You are literally hearing Aline and Renoir arguing back and forth over their circumstances, fighting amongst each other on how things should go. And yes, I'm being as vague as I possibly can, but if you know, you know. This song is just so good, but like I said, Alicia and Lumiere are also top tier. I want you to listen to these clips of covers. First, from Marco Meatball, a retired opera singer doing a cover of Alicia, a song filled with depth and emotion, and his deeper voice just brings that out a little bit more. I love the original, sung by the original singer. Her voice is amazing, and the way she emits the emotion through the song is phenomenal, but there's something about Marco's deeper rendition of it that just makes those emotions sort of swell as he delivers the lines. Take a listen. And now I'm going to have you listen to a clip of a rock cover of Lumiere from Power Plant Band. This is just such a great song to convert into different styles because the song is so good at its core. But listen to this. Man, this game better win Soundtrack of the Year. Hell, it better win Game of the Year at this point.
Claire
Finally, at number 1, we have my favorite video game song. Now, real quick, let's picture the circumstances of why this has become my favorite. I'm about 10, 11 years old, I've just been adopted out of foster care, and I'm going to daycare for the first time, and I need to make new friends. I look over in the corner and I see a kid sitting on a beanbag playing on a Game Boy Pocket. His name is Garrison. Yep, the same Garrison from the StarCraft section. Well, I walk on over, I see in the back of his Game Boy this bright red cartridge. I obviously have no idea what he's playing. I never had a Game Boy, I never had a handheld. I was strictly a Super Nintendo N64 boy at this time. And I sit next to him and I say, "Hey, I'm Chris, what you playing?" That became one of the strongest friendships of my childhood. We went over to each other's house, we got to know each other, I met his parents got to meet me and my mom at the time, and sure enough, a friendship was born. Now my birthday is very close to Christmas, right, the 23rd. So naturally, whenever I get gifts for my birthday, they're usually things also related to Christmas. Well, I got really lucky. See, Garrison's parents got him a Game Boy Color for Christmas, and they knew that I really didn't have anything to play with him, and I didn't have a Game Boy of my own. So they gave me his old Game Boy Pocket for my birthday, knowing that they're going to be giving him a Game Boy Color for Christmas. So they gave it to him a couple days early during my birthday party, so he had something still while I could then inherit his old Game Boy Pocket. They also gave me a brand new copy of Pokemon Blue. They specifically got me the blue version because he already had the red version, and now we could trade and play together. Well, this leads me to the song in question, the champion battle music in Pokemon Red and Blue. As with most songs on this list, we're talking from a place of nostalgia, but I do argue it's one of the best themes that Pokemon has ever given us. Picture this one more time. Close your eyes. You're 9 or 10 years old. The internet isn't a thing. Your friends' word of mouth is all you have to go on, and you think you've built the best Pokemon team of your life. You enter into the Elite Four, and you realize through unfortunate circumstance that it's kind of a gauntlet, and after many attempts, you finally beat Lance. You think you've won. You are now the champion of the league. But then you're told, not actually. You still have one final battle. The current champion of the league. You walk into the room and you see him. Gary, this little snot-nosed brat who's harassed you the entire journey, is now the champion. But now is your chance to finally take him down once and for all. But in the back of your mind, you know, if you lose, it's back to the start. Here and now, the final battle begins, and this banger comes on. It fills you with so much anxiety, hope, the escalating sound just driving your heartbeat through the roof. Every attack a nail-biting affair, hoping it doesn't miss. Every attack Gary makes, hoping your Pokemon survives the hit. You pace around your living room anxious, your adrenaline on high, and you finally take down his last Pokemon. The intense song subsides, and you've done it. You've beat the champion. This exact feeling was me at 11 years old. And this is why this song will always be my number one. There you have it, my favorite songs in gaming. Sure, most are just remember berries, but that's the beauty of music. It takes us back to times that we've forgotten. Now tell me down below your favorite songs. Tell me what memories are dredged up when you listen to certain music. Did any of these songs do that for you? Until next time, have a great day.